I found that the community themselves, they like talking about scuba. So it was kind of easy to get people involved that way.
Yep. Yep. No, I think it's a good thought because there's two sides of that InstaBuddy coin, like you're saying. There's one side of it that you get paired up with someone randomly, but there's another side of it where if you are a more, I don't want to say experienced, but more comfortable diver, if you're comfortable in your skin, and that word comfortability has come up a lot in season two, as a gateway into relaxing and enjoying diving when you're comfortable doing it. But when you're more comfortable taking somebody that maybe is less comfortable or newer to the sport and those sorts of things, I think it's amazing, right? I think that's a really important takeaway from what you said in terms of taking responsibility to of some, not necessarily responsibility, but taking responsibility upon yourself to try and help somebody else have an amazing time. And that I think is really cool. I think there's also a bucket in here in the scuba relationships in courses. So a lot of people meet during training together, right? So oftentimes you and a friend may sign up for a course together, but then there's, five other people, six other people, however many people there, that are going to then be in the same training with you. And I know I've taken training where I knew nobody before, and now we're training together, right? And you learn very quickly about people, and you're kind of in it with them. And there's an opportunity there. I've met some amazing people through training as well. So I think that's another layer. Maybe there's the InstaBuddy layer, there's the training partner, and at some level, because you're not just fun diving together, you're actually trying to achieve something together. That there's another layer of relationship that gets built there, in my mind. And
Yeah,
then
a
for
lot of
me,
it
I
has
have
to.
two. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, and a lot of that when you meet that person in the class or in that diving environment, it's also partially the schedule. I mean, because if you go in the scuba diving and you go, oh I hear it all the time. I would be diving more, but my dive buddy's always busy, or they're no longer diving. So I'm like, then why did you stop? Right? Find somebody else that has a similar schedule that wants to dive.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, we tried to do, or we have continued to do, these Tuesday night dives here in Texas, where it's just, hey, every Tuesday after work, we're all going to be there. We try to get in the water first dive at this time, and that's our sunset dive. And then we do a night dive if you're sticking around afterwards. And it's that consistency, right? It's the consistency of schedule, and that you can plan for it. I mean, everyone has different circumstances. Some people are working crazy hours at work and have to move things around so they can make that schedule work. Some people have kids and have to get, make sure childcare is taken care of if they're going to be gone, those sorts of things. So I agree. I think there's a scheduling piece of this. And I think that being being in a good relationship, let's put it that way, without going into the other side of it, it is, predictability is a part of it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
showing up is 90% of the game, and so that's good. Yeah, and then for me, I have kind of two other layers of scuba relationships. One is, there's what we call in the training I've done is your team, right? Your dive team. That's something I put a lot of effort and work into building a team, which really that means it's someone that I'm aligned with in my training, especially when it comes to, our emergency protocols and things like that, that I can get in the water with on a regular basis and know that we're in a similar view of a philosophy of diving, is kind of team. And then I've just recently learned this fourth layer, which is new to me, which is, then there's another layer of team, which I'm calling right now like my core team, which is someone who I will do any dive with, especially the really challenging dives. So I learned pretty quickly, like, when it comes to tech diving, you have to really think about who you get in the water with, because at the end of the day, that other person is going to be someone that, potentially is going to save your life, and vice versa. And, recreationally, that's also true. It can also very, very well be true. But there's a little less risk in the recreational profiles. When you start to dive the technical profiles, all of a sudden I want to know that the person across from me knows the plumbing that's on my back, right? And knows if something goes wrong, they know what to do, right? And I trust their training to kick in at that point, right? So that's a new layer for me of this core team versus just dive team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those for me is kind of the landscape of scuba relationships, at least that I've experienced.
Yeah. So even with that core team that you're talking about, it's not necessarily somebody also that's maybe perfectly aligned with you. At least you in your mindset knows that there's this person has their strengths and you can rely on them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you may know some of their weaknesses.
Yep.
Okay. So, they may save you, but of course you'll get lost, but something like